Welcome back. Now she's known as the Queen of Ska, but Pauline Black has come a long way since her days of earning just £10 a gig in her local pub.
Her band, The Selector, was one of the most famous two-tone groups of the 80s, enjoying chart success, as well as supporting the likes of Madness and The Specials. Now the group is getting ready to hit the road once more.
Pauline's with us. You've been giggling at that memory of earning £10 a gig.
Good morning, Naga. Yes, it was many, many years ago, and £10 was a lot of money in those days. It was £1 a song.
There you go. There you go. OK, we'll go down memory lane and find out what's happening now. But first, let's take a look at The Selector's biggest hit on my radio. That was your first time on TV, you just told us?
Yes, first time at Top of the Pops. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
What was your plan, your strategy?
We had no strategy in those days. You didn't have a strategy 35 years ago. It was obviously, for any band, you wanted to be on television. Top of the Pops was about the only musical programme that there was. So just to be there was fantastic. And with a song like On My Radio, it was even better.
It was a strange time, wasn't it, in terms of the music that was around, because there were lots of different music styles on at the same time. I can't imagine what was on Top of the Pops alongside you that night, but there was probably some weird variety of music, wasn't there?
All kinds of things. Yeah, you've got to remember that it's a subculture. Two-tone is a subculture, but lots of different other subcultures like punks, like mods, like soul boys, all of those people all came under that umbrella and came along to our shows, and that's really what we're celebrating now. I mean, we've called our new album Subculture because that's exactly what it says on the tin, and we're that kind of band.
And some things I'm noting haven't changed a bit, because you still got the black jacket and you got the hat.
Well,
it's like a calling card.
Hats never go out of style, do they?
Absolutely.
You never have a bad hair day.
No, they're very good for that. I want to talk to you about some of the gigs you did in the early days and how two-tone was received in certain environments. And can you just explain, because I think now people have the gigs seem a lot more organised. There seem to be fewer. I don't want to say dingy, but that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. You know, those smaller dance hall type places where you used to have really intimate gigs. There seem to be fewer of those now. But when you started out, it was very different.
Oh, it was wonderful in those days. You had places like the Sheffield Limit Club and Leeds F Club, and they were dark and dingy, you know, your feet stuck to the floor and all those kind of things. But the actual atmosphere at those gigs was wonderful, and particularly in the early days, people would just cram in. We used to do matinee performances for you know, people who'd bunk off school just to come and see us, all dressed in their sort of two-tone gear and things like that. So that was great. I love those clubs, but, you know, things move on.
So, and how significantly different? What do you think is the biggest change now? Now you're back in the industry after a short break. and it's very different, isn't it? Pitching yourself and appealing to a fresh audience as well as the traditional, your more loyal audience.
Well, it's always difficult. If you've been around for a long time, which indeed the Selector has, two-tone has been around as a concept and a movement for 35 years, you've got to look at yourself and say, right, are we just going to market ourselves as a heritage band? Are we just going to trot out the hits and that's it, go to all those festivals and be like that? Or is our remit really to talk about what's going on now? Because that was what two-tone did. It had an anti-racist, it had an anti-sexist message, and those things are still here and they're still rife today. And I would say really that you could now talk about multiculturalism. That is what two-tone was back then, and multiculturalism is the way forward for any society, any civilised society. And if we can champion that with any new music that we do, then I think that's fantastic.
Speaking of new music, we can see, I think, a single now, which is Box Fresh. Very interesting watching that and listening to it, isn't it? Because some people, you can see the similarities straight away, but there's a kind of slightly more mellow feel, certainly to that song. Would that be fair, do you think?
Certainly to that song. There are plenty of tracks on there that are pretty much how we used to be, as it were. But yes, that's very radio friendly in those terms. But it's still myself and Gaps Hendrickson, the other lead singer within the band, still up the front, still doing what we do brilliantly after all these years. I think our relationship has probably lasted longer than a marriage, to be perfectly honest. And we've never had a crossword with each other.
Never?
And never. No, I can honestly say that, hand on heart. not. We never have.
And there's going to be live performances. You're doing live stuff as well now?
We're doing live stuff towards the end of the year in November, December. We're also, myself and Gaps Hendrickson are out with Jules Holland, doing 17 dates with him, 2 at the Albert Hall. And we've got a whole summer sort of season of doing music, which is great.
Lovely to see you here this morning. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you very
joining
much,
us.
Charlie Naga.
The Selectors' new album is called Subculture.